10 Sinister Small Town Horrors Revealed. Discover the haunted secrets that will terrify you. Lisa's heart raced as she parked the car on the pebbled driveway of their new home in Haverhill. Octobers in New England were meant to be picturesque, but there was an unsettling chill in the air that chilled her to the bone. The quaint houses loomed all around her, with their painted shutters and friendly porches, but behind those charming facades, she felt eyes watching. It was as if the town was breathing, harboring dark secrets amidst the vibrant reds and yellows of the autumn leaves. Every evening, she and 10-year-old Tommy ventured to the nearby park, laughter spilling from them like bright confetti, yet the soft smiles of their neighbors morphed into sinister glances as they walked home. Lisa couldn't shake the feeling of being scrutinized, like a clear target painted on her back. Had they heard the tales? The stories of children gone missing? The ones whispered among the older folks at the diner where she worked, filling the air with a thick, ominous tension. Each creak of their new home echoed those tales in her mind. With Halloween approaching, the atmosphere thickened, wrapping around Lisa like a damp blanket. The Haverhill Whisperer, they called it, an ominous figure lurking in shadows, waiting. Tales of its existence turned quieter, hushed, but the fear was tangible, thick as the fog that rolled in at dusk. On Halloween night, the streets flooded with costumed children, their giggles twisting into something almost haunting in the chilled breeze. As she tucked Tommy into bed later, she found it hard to shake the feeling that the townsfolk were just as much about the fear as they were about the fun. When she turned to leave the kitchen, she gasped. A photograph of her and Tommy lay upside down on the table, and a scrawled note marred its surface: "Don't let him go." Her pulse quickened as dread washed over her. She glanced through the window, her breath hitching. Mrs. Jones, the overly cheery neighbor, stood motionless in her yard, her eyes locked onto Lisa. The moonlight cast menacing shadows across her face, twisting her smile into something far less welcoming. That night, every whisper felt alive. Each creak of the house seemed like a warning. Suddenly, a shout pierced the silence. Was it real? Was someone else awake, or was it another child, another victim of the whisperer? Her heart hammered in her chest like the frantic wings of a caged bird. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Stepping outside was a mistake, but the pull to uncover the truth was irresistible. The moon hung heavy above her, and every sound echoed in the stillness: the rustling leaves, the wind's gentle murmur, and the far-off sounds of laughter that felt wrong, wrong, wrong. Shadows danced around her, as if beckoning her to follow. Goosebumps prickled her skin as she noticed the watching eyes, those familiar gleaming windows peeking through the darkness, observing her every move. What had she walked into? The line between reality and the fears buried in town folklore blurred, and as the chilly wind swept through her hair, she felt it entwining her in its sinister embrace. What lay ahead? What emerged from the shadows on Halloween night? The answers hung heavy, choking her with dread, waiting just beyond her reach. The wind howled, slicing through the air like a sharpened blade. Lisa stood frozen, every instinct screaming at her to retreat, to secure herself and Tommy from whatever danger lurked in the darkness. But she wasn't alone. Unease swirled around her, tangible and thick, as if the very essence of Haverhill conspired against her. Suddenly, faint echoes reverberated throughout the night. The laughter she had heard moments before morphed into piercing screams. Her heart raced, like thunder crackling in her ears. Were they real? Or just figments of her imagination, conjured by the tales of missing children? A shivery thought: perhaps they called out for help. Perhaps they became part of the whisperer's game. Instinctively, she glanced toward Tommy's bedroom window, half hoping to see his soft face peering back at her. But it was dark. Too dark. A wave of sickness washed over her at the thought. He could be dreaming peacefully, or she couldn't allow herself to finish that thought. Behind her, movement wrapped around her like the fog. She whirled to face the street. Shadows slid along sidewalks, but they weren't benign. They twisted, contorted figures slipping between the houses, as if made of smoke. Each silhouette seemed to pull away from the light, their expressions hidden. "Tommy!" she called in a voice trembling with fear. "Stay in your room." But that was too late, wasn't it? Couldn't she feel it? The atmosphere thickening around her like a tightening noose. "Mom!" His small voice drifted from the house, fragile and vulnerable. Her pulse quickened as the shadows shifted. She was no longer certain if the figures were alive. Were they the lost souls of Haverhill? Instruments of the Whisperer? The chilling laughter returned, echoing against the night. It was closer now, sinister, circling her like a predator. A figure stepped into the dim light, revealing Mrs. Jones, her welcoming smile twisted into a grotesque grimace. "You shouldn't be out here, Lisa," she said, her voice low and rasped. "You don't want to draw attention." Lisa's breath caught in her throat as she scanned the street. More neighbors lurked in the shadows, their eyes glinting like animals watching their prey. It felt like a game, but one with very high stakes. "The Whisperer," she murmured, trembling. Mrs. Jones's smile broadened sickeningly. "He likes to play during Halloween. You wouldn't want to lose what's precious to you, would you?" Before Lisa could respond, a sudden, disheartening scream emerged from a nearby yard, shattering the facade of neighborly concerns. A child's wail echoed, raw and desperate. It was a cry that seemed to slice through the darkness like a knife. "Tommy!" She bolted forward, heart thudding wildly, fighting against the gravity pulling her back toward the shadows. Each step felt weighted, as if the town itself conspired to halt her advance. She could sense the grave danger closing in. As she flung open the door to their home, the interior felt colder, darker. The curtains drawn tight, the air stale, her instincts screamed that something was dreadfully wrong. She dashed through the halls, calling out his name, each word echoing against the walls like a prayer. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the end of the hallway, a small silhouette, seeming to melt into the shadows before rushing toward her. It was Tommy. Relief flooded her, but it was short-lived. Why was he grinning? Why were his eyes so wide, shining with an unsettling light? "Mom, Mom! I met a friend!" he shouted, the words spilling out in a rush. "Tommy, no!" Her voice broke through the joy she wanted to share. "We have to leave. Now." But he didn't move. The glow behind him shifted, revealing a pair of gleaming eyes in the darkness, the shadows around them shifting and moving like tendrils, creeping closer. "Who's your friend, Tommy?" Lisa's stomach churned as she whispered the words, dread pooling within her. "That lady says she knows how to make the pain go away." His voice trailed off, innocence tinged with something sinister. The true terror was sinking in, tightening its grip around Lisa's heart. The shadows coalesced behind her son, and she realized then the trap had been set. "Tommy, get away from her." But laughter, sweet and cruel, rang through the house, wrapping its icy fingers around Lisa's heart. "Mom, it'll be fun." The night was not yet done. The Whisperer craved more than just observing. What does he want? And when would it be too late? "Tommy, no." Lisa insisted, desperation saturating her voice. But her words slipped through his ears like water, his gaze locked onto the shadows that seemed to coax him closer to the twisted shape lurking behind him. The ethereal light flickered like a candle threatened by a storm, casting a ghostly glow that illuminated the grotesque figure. "Don't you want to play with us?" The ominous figure taunted, her voice soft and velvety, yet chilling enough to freeze Lisa in place. The air crackled with an unsettling energy, and Lisa felt it tugging at her sanity, luring her deeper into fear. "Mom!" Tommy twirled, delight dancing in his eyes. "She says I can be like them." The laughter echoed again, rising in a symphony of mania that bounced off the walls. A shudder ran through Lisa as she stepped forward, grit beneath her feet. No. You don't understand, Tommy. We need to go now. But Tommy was smiling, utterly captivated. He took a tentative step toward the shadowy figure, his innocence a stark contrast against the impending dread. As he moved closer, Lisa felt a force, dark and stifling, wrap around her. It whispered in her mind, planting seeds of confusion. They feel no pain, the sinister woman sang, her eyes glinting like shards of glass. Join us, Tommy, feel free. The words were a poison, seeping into her thoughts. Gripping the doorframe with both hands, Lisa fought against the tightening knots in her stomach. Every moment was a battle for her son's soul, each heartbeat a war drum announcing an approaching darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. Listen to me. She trembled, heart racing. She's lying. You're safe here, with me. We can go outside, we can share candy, do you remember? We can call Dad. The invocation of his husband was a fragile last hope. The name sparked a flicker in Tommy's eyes, like lightning illuminating the stormy sky. What's wrong with fun, Mom? Tommy asked, tilting his head. The innocence in his voice was laced with confusion. I just want to be with my friends. Your friends? She echoed, glancing again at the figure, who began to emerge from the shadows, drifting forward like a fog. The dim light revealed jagged features and hollowed cheeks, a parody of beauty twisted into something terrifying. They aren't your friends. They want to take you away from me. Behind the woman, more shadows danced malevolently, blurring in and out of view like memories forgotten. Each figure morphed into a child, lost and warped, their faces ashen with despair. Lisa could see it now, tiny hands reaching for Tommy, beckoning him into a world devoid of warmth. Mom. Tommy's voice trembled slightly now, doubt edging into his expression. The spell began to crack, the innocence fading under the weight of realization. In that heartbeat, the oppressive atmosphere thickened, slapping against her skin like icy waves. The woman snapped back, her smile cutting deeper. No. You can't let him go. The pain he needs to be free of you. Panic shot through Lisa, she couldn't afford to lose her son, not to this twisted game. Tommy, focus on my voice. She commanded, taking a step into the fray, pushing past the murky figures. Mom, I don't want to hurt, he mumbled, edging back, uncertainty flickering in those large, innocent eyes. Suddenly, the laughter grew louder, the shadows spiraled tighter. You can't protect him, Lisa. The voice echoed through the house, shaking the very foundation of reality. He is ours now. In an adrenaline-fueled rush, Lisa lunged forward, grabbing Tommy by the arm. As she yanked him back, the chilling grip of the shadows clawed at her, pulling her into darkness. She felt the cold wrap around her, a suffocating blanket that pressed her deeper into despair. No. We're leaving. Yet the shadows flickered, manageable for just an instant before slashing back, claws of despair tearing into her resolve. Mom! Tommy cried, tugging against her grip, fighting in confusion, unsure of where he belonged. Her heart thundered. Terrified, she could barely whisper, "Stay with me, Tommy. We fight together." For a fleeting moment, she glimpsed a side door at the end of the hallway, and a wild thought surged in her mind. Could they escape? But the shadows surged forward, a wave of impending doom, threatening to pull them into the abyss. Let us go. A scream pierced her lips, resonating through the night. But the darkness wrapped about them, tightening, waiting to pounce. Tommy. Lightning flashed from the shadows, illuminating the horror. But there was a sudden stillness. What would the Whisperer do now they were fighting back? Would they ever see the light of day again? Lisa's fingers gripped Tommy's arm tighter as she felt the shadows push against her, testing her resolve. The laughter resonated, a haunting melody that swirled around them, digging into her mind, unraveling her thoughts. Each echo sent tremors racing down her spine. Tommy, look at me. She shouted, the urgency in her voice punctuating the thick air between them. We can outrun them. Just follow me. In that moment, Tommy's eyes shifted, revealing the fear lurking beneath the surface of his wonder. But I want to stay, he hesitated, looking back at the grotesque figure, entranced, his voice caught like an ember in the approaching storm. They're my friends, Mom. They won't hurt me. The woman's grin widened, a grin that seemed stitched on with darkness itself. Oh, but they will bring him joy, sweet Lisa. You couldn't give him that, could you? With each word, Lisa felt panic burn in her stomach. No. Tommy, listen, they're not your friends. They're monsters. They want to take you away. As she spoke, the shadowy forms began to close in, their whispers wrapping around her like a noose. Images of lost moments playing in the park, snuggling up with bedtime stories flashed before her eyes. Would she allow this to be how it ended? Come, Tommy. The sinister woman urged, her voice dripping with temptation. Let go of that heavy heart, be like us, free. The words curled around Lisa's mind like smoke, intoxicating and suffocating. Fighting against them, she clutched Tommy's arm. We have to run, Tommy. Now. Suddenly, the shadows surged, their forms distorting, swirling like a tempest. She could feel the coldness bite at her, gnashing teeth of dread. Taking a deep breath, she seized her courage. On 3. 1, 2, 3. They bolted toward the side door, racing against the darkness that howled in fury behind them. But just as hope glimmered at the edge of despair, unyielding shadows tightened around their feet, yanking at their bodies with insatiable malice. Tommy! Hold on! Lisa cried, the world spinning, her vision blurring with tears of fear. The door loomed closer, but they were being dragged back. She could feel the cold whisper seeping, begging to invade her mind. Let him go. You can't save him. Fighting against the tide of despair, Lisa dug her heels into the wooden floor, but the shadows clawed at her like wild animals, relentless. No. We're leaving together. She screamed, her voice trembling with desperation. Tommy's small hand slipped from hers for just a second, as he faltered under the weight of hesitation and fear. I don't want to hurt you, Mom. He sobbed, confusion forming a storm in his wide eyes. With a lurch of heart-wrenching clarity, Lisa realized their struggle was not just against the shadows, but within Tommy. You won't hurt me, sweetheart. You're stronger than this. With every ounce of strength, she pulled him back, closing the gap. Fight them. Fight for us. Please. At that moment, Tommy's light flickered, an illuminating warmth amidst the gathering darkness. A soft, internal spark flickered, and for a brief instant, she could see his resolve gaining ground. Mom! He wailed, desperation brightening the air around them. The shadows recoiled like a whip, the malevolent laughter faltering. It was as if they could sense the barrier forming between the sun and the darkness. Rejuvenated, Lisa pulled with all her might. They were inches from safety now. Then silence hit. The laughter faded, the shadows wavered. You can't keep him, Lisa. Something cold crept up Lisa's spine. We can't let them win, Tommy. Push against it. With a final surge, they broke free from the grip of despair, careening through the door just as it slammed shut behind them. The sudden rush of fresh air was like a jolt to her system. But as they stumbled into the eerie moonlight, a haunting realization dawned. The door had sealed tightly, the oppressive force still lingering in the shadows, watching. What did we just escape? Tommy whispered, his voice small and fragile. Lisa glanced back at the door, dread pooling in her stomach. I don't know, but before she could contemplate further, something flickered in the reflection of the window behind them. A fleeting shadow, watching. And just like that, the creeping dread returned, clawing at her throat. Turn around, Tommy, please. And just as she said it, the window shattered, shards flying outward like daggers. Mom! Look out! But it was too late. Would they be trapped again? And what awaited them in the open night? Lisa's heart raced, the sound echoing like thunder in her ears as glass rained down around them. She instinctively shielded Tommy, but the shards fizzled faintly, almost absorbed by an unseen force. The air grew charged, thick with a tension she could feel pooling at the base of her spine. "Mom!" Tommy cried, his little voice trembling with fear. The moonlight glinted off the jagged pieces littering the ground, casting grotesque shadows that seemed to ripple like ink. Something was watching, lurking just beyond the veil of the night. "We have to go now." Lisa gasped, scanning their surroundings. The street was alive, swirling with dark forms coiling from the alleyways as if drawn to them, hungry for the warmth that pulsed from her and Tommy. A low growl emanated from the shadows, a dissonance that made her bones ache. "Where do we even run to?" Tommy whispered, his wide eyes reflecting panic and confusion, a mirror to her own. "Anywhere but here," she urged. Clutching his hand, she surged forward, glimpsing flickers of movement in the night, shadows bending and twisting as if mocking their desperate escape. Every step felt heavy, the ground sticky with dread. They darted down the dimly lit street, the haunting laughter from before slithering through the air, echoing from every corner. It surrounded them, curling like a serpent around their limbs, squeezing tighter with each heartbeat. "Mom, what are they?" Tommy gasped, panting as they moved. "Just keep running." "I swear I won't let them take you," she said, determination fighting against the icy grip of fear. But her thoughts spiraled as the realization sunk in. Wherever they ran, the shadows would follow. Suddenly, a scream split the air, sharp and splintered like the glass that still glimmered on the ground. It tore through the stillness, and Lisa froze, her heart stopping in her chest. It sounded familiar. "Mom! Please!" Tommy yanked at her hand, confusion battling against the terror tightening its grip on their surroundings. "Let us keep moving," she urged, adrenaline coursing through her veins. But her feet felt glued to the ground, a heavy weight holding her in place, fear demanding she stay just a moment longer. "Mom! Listen!" Tommy pointed, and she turned to see a flicker of light dancing at the end of the street. It looked almost inviting against the enveloping shadow, but something inside her warned her it was just another trick. "Don't!" she shouted. With urgency, she pulled him toward a worn path flanked by wilting trees that leaned in like dark giants, their branches reaching for them. But as they turned to flee, the shadows began to stir, ripping free from the ground as if suddenly granted life. They surged toward the source of the scream, an alleyway nearby, where dark silhouettes writhed and twisted, hungry for what lay beyond the grimy walls. Tommy stumbled, trying to catch his breath. "They sound like people or not, we need to go." Lisa yanked him forward again, but the flicker of light caught her gaze once more, and in that moment, she felt something pulse within her. A flicker of hope. Or was it a siren-esque call, drawing them right into the center of the horror? "What's in there, Mom?" Tommy asked, wide-eyed, pointing again, his curiosity battling against the instinct to flee. "I don't know," but the moment stretched, shadows swirling at the edges of her vision. "They're not friends, Tommy." And just like that, the shadows shifted, inspired by their hesitation. The fear inside Lisa coiled tightly, demanding action. "Run!" she screamed, launching herself into the alley, dragging Tommy behind her just as the shadows lunged. In the dark, the air turned electric, the light dimmed, illuminating nothing but swirling darkness. As they ran deeper into the night, the shadows split, converging like a predatory swarm. It felt like they were diving deeper into a mouth that yearned to swallow them whole. "Mom!" Tommy cried, panic evident in his voice as fingers of dark slithered past him, grazing his shoulder. And then came a voice, smooth yet savage, curling around them as it whispered, "Come back to us, come play." Lisa's heart froze. She realized they hadn't left the shadows behind at all, they were merely waiting. Clutching Tommy tight, she dared to look back. "Mom! Look out!" There they were, grotesque forms with hollow eyes, mouths stretched wide in a mocking grin, just shards of darkness yet achingly familiar. The question lingered in the air, would they ever be free? Or had they just stepped deeper into the very horrors they sought to escape? The flickering light beckoned once more, but was it salvation or a trap? Tommy turned to her, eyes brimming with fear. "Mom, what do we do now?" The shadows surged around them, a writhing miasma that seemed to pulse with life. Lisa's breath quickened, fear clawing at her throat, but she forced herself to move forward. "We have to find a way out of this." They stumbled deeper into the alley, its walls closing in like the jaws of a predator. The flickering light danced further ahead, teasing her senses. It felt like a beacon of hope and despair at once, each step leading them closer to something they couldn't understand. "Mom! What was that voice?" Tommy asked, his small frame trembling against her, tiny fingers clutching her hand like a lifeline. The pulse of the shadows was nearly deafening, a cacophony of whispers and laughter echoing around them. I don't know. Just keep moving, Tommy. Don't look back." But the weight of dread pressed heavily on her chest. What if the shadows were right? What if they were leading them straight to the heart of this nightmare? As they turned a corner, the alley opened up into a wider, more ominous street. The streetlights flickered weakly, casting pale yellow pools of light that seemed pitiful against the encroaching darkness. A sudden rush of despair overwhelmed Lisa. Shadows danced in those pools, and in the gloom, she saw flickers of familiar faces, twisted and warped by pain. "Look, Mom!" Tommy shouted, pointing to a small, unmarked door set into a brick wall. It was so out of place, so inviting in the chaos. The knob glistened, almost responding to them, and for a fleeting moment, she felt a warmth radiate from it. "No!" The word escaped her lips, a guttural cry. The shadows lingered, swirling in agitation, and she sensed their hunger intensifying. "Maybe it's a way out," Tommy pleaded, eyes wide with curiosity. "Or it's just another trap," she replied, the panic evident in her voice as she tugged him away from the door. But hesitating felt like surrender and her heart raced harder, a drum in her chest. But Tommy's curiosity had already won over his fear. He turned back toward the door, stepping closer, and Lisa felt her stomach drop. "Tommy, don't." He reached for the handle, icy fingers brushing against the metal, and just as the door creaked open, a shriek pierced the air like a knife. It was raw, desperate, and alien. The darkness recoiled, freezing in place. The shadows writhed, their edges flickering like flames. Time stood still. Then it came again, a chorus of voices, wailing, lamenting, urging them toward a fate Lisa feared to comprehend. "Help us, join us," they moaned, their echo enveloping her thoughts, weaving a tapestry of despair. "Mom, they sound like people." Tommy's voice quivered, yet a part of him seemed entranced, leaning closer to the door, to the whispers. "No!" Lisa shouted, yanking him back. "We can't, please, let us just go." But the chill from the shadows wrapped around her like a serpent, and she felt the urge to flee dissolve. The door stood ajar, and she clutched her son tight, torn between pulling him away and dragging them both through that threshold of uncertainty. "Mom," Tommy whispered, a plea that pricked at her heart. "What if they can help us?" The shadows began to stretch toward the door, as if something sinister was emerging. Lisa felt dizzy, her world spinning. "We need to run," she insisted, her voice shaky, her will battling against a growing pull. But as her eyes flickered to the door, a shape began to materialize, dark but solid. The flickering light dimmed, revealing the twisted, melted visage of a man, a lost echo of what once was. "Join us," he chanted, his voice haunting and syrupy sweet, sucking her in, filling her with the promise of relief. "Mom," Tommy started, but the shadows roared back, drowning his words. The decision weighed heavy. They could run into the chaos or surrender to the shadows disguised as hope. "What do we do?" Lisa gasped, the answer hovering, tantalizing yet terrifying. That a final scream shattered her thoughts, echoing in the air mixed with the whispers. She clutched Tommy against her, fear braided with the desperation to find safety. Then, a glint of light broke through the darkness, a shimmering Escape flickered at the far end of the alley. "Mom! There!" Tommy shouted, pointing with wide eyes. And that moment turned thick with urgency. Clenching her jaw, she turned, but the darkness swelled, the shadows hungry for their choice. "Run!" Lisa screamed, knowing they couldn't stay any longer. As they dashed toward the light, the wails intensified, blending into a dissonant symphony of despair. It became palpable, swirling around them, squeezing past them on all sides. The darkness shrieked in fury, shadows clawing at their backs, and as they burst into that flickering light, a vast emptiness loomed ahead. Would that light guide them to safety, or swallow them whole? Outside the chaos, questions hung heavy in the air as they rushed forward. And the path ahead twisted and turned, shrouded in an uncertain fate. The hunt wasn't over yet. What other horrors awaited them in a town pulsing with dark secrets? They plunged forward into the light, hearts pounding like drums in the oppressive silence that followed. The glow swallowed them, but soon the warmth evaporated, replaced by an unsettling chill that crept up Lisa's spine. The bright alley flickered out like a dying bulb, leaving them suspended in an all-encompassing gray fog. "Mom, where are we?" Tommy's voice trembled, breaking the heavy quiet. Lisa squinted into the mist, trying to discern their surroundings, but all she could see were shadows shifting at the edges of her vision. I don't know," she admitted, the creeping dread nesting deeper inside her. "Just stick close to me." They were in a narrow space, like an alley but more suffocating. The fog curled around them, thick and cloying, filling her lungs with a sense of despair that weighed her down. It smelled old, like decaying leaves and something else, something metallic. Lisa's instincts screamed at her to get out, to find a way back to the visibility of the street they had left behind. A sudden gust of wind roared through, swirling the fog, and she caught a glimpse of faces floating within the mist, mournful eyes watching them, mouths moving but no sound escaping. She recoiled, pulling Tommy closer. "Mom! They are staring at us," he whispered, a quiver in his voice. I know." She fought against the rising panic, scanning their surroundings. "We need to keep moving." But the fog thickened, swirling around their ankles like a living creature. It whispered secrets, accusations that sliced into her resolve. The disembodied voices echoed, weaving stories of torment and despair. "Join us, stay with us," they hissed, blending with the chill. Lisa felt the hold of the shadows intensifying. "Keep walking, Tommy," she urged, heart galloping. Each step felt sluggish, like they were wading through tar. Then, laughter, a chilling, high-pitched sound that sliced through the fog, turning her blood cold. It echoed, reverberating along the narrow path like a sinister taunt. "You can't escape. You'll be one of us soon." "Mom! I'm scared." Tommy squeezed her hand, his knuckles pale. "Stay close. Don't let go," she urged him, refusing to look back. The laughter grew louder, an unsettling symphony intertwined with the wailing. Combining with the fog, it progressed into a frenzy, enveloping them, an orchestra of madness. Suddenly, a figure emerged ahead. Barely more than a silhouette, it stepped from the fog. Lisa's heart clenched as a woman cloaked in shadows shifted into view, her face disfigured, twisted in rage and sorrow. "Help us," the woman croaked, her voice brittle like dry leaves. "Don't leave, join us." Lisa stumbled back, instincts screaming to run. The air grew heavy, a burden pressing down her shoulders, and she could feel the dark energy pulsating, wrapping around them all. "We have to go," she shouted, but Tommy's small voice cut through her frenzy. "Mom! Wait!" He stepped forward. "Maybe she can help." "No." Panic clawed at her throat as she lunged to pull him back. But he stood his ground, mesmerized by the apparition. "Tommy!" The woman's eyes flared with an unnatural light, glistening with unshed tears. "Please don't leave." In that moment, Lisa felt lost between despair and hope, as if the fog whispered promises on the edge of her sanity. "You see? The shadowy woman beckoned. You're not alone. Join us, feel the freedom. Suddenly, the shadows lunged, swirling violently as the fog thickened, dragging at the edges of her resolve. The voices formed a chaotic crescendo, the emotional turmoil washing over Lisa like a tidal wave. Decisions needed to be made swiftly. Mom! Tommy cried, and the sound pierced through the chaos, reigniting a flicker of clarity. With a surge of will, she grabbed his hand, yanking him away from the woman's allure. We're leaving. But as they turned to flee, the ground split open, cracks spiderwebbing through the fog, threatening to swallow them whole. Join us or be lost forever, the chorus of voices cried, a chilling warning echoing behind them. They sprinted forward, the fog roiling violently as the tendrils of darkness lashed out. Like whips. Lisa felt the pull grow stronger, as though their escape was being fought against by 100 unseen hands tugging them back. Then, out of nowhere, a distant light twinkled in the oppressive gray, flickering like a candle in the wind. Mom! Over there! Tommy pointed, urgency radiating from his small body. Run! She screamed, adrenaline surging through her veins as they began to charge toward that beacon, leaving the darkness and the shadows behind. But the ominous chorus didn't wane. Instead, it followed, growing louder, thrumming against the walls of their minds. Seconds felt like hours as they pushed desperately towards the light. Would they reach safety, or would the darkness reclaim them once more? The light pulsed again, but as they neared, a grotesque smile bloomed in the shadows, revealing rows of sharpened teeth. Escape is such a fleeting thing, the voices sang as they closed in. You'll never really be free. And just as they reached out toward that glimmer of hope, the shadows lunged one last time. What awaited them on the other side of the light? Could they truly escape this nightmare, or were they destined to join those who lingered in the fog? The light wrapped around them like a shroud, blinding and relentless. Lisa shielded her eyes, feeling a surge of mixed emotions: fear, desperation, and an overwhelming desire to escape the encroaching darkness. The shadows screamed, their voices intertwining like 1,000 angry bees, buzzing with promises of eternal anguish. Mom! Hurry! Tommy tugged at her hand, pulling her toward the brightness. Just as they breached the barrier, the light consumed them whole, swallowing the anguished sounds of the fog. They stumbled into a wide open space, the light crisp and bright, splitting through the haze that engulfed them moments before. But it was too stark. It felt unnatural, almost painful, and every heartbeat echoed an unsettling static in the air, as if the world itself held its breath. What is this place? Tommy whispered, wide-eyed, scanning the eerie landscape. It was unlike anything Lisa had ever seen, a street perhaps, but one stripped of life. Buildings loomed, gnarled and grotesque, like bone-white teeth jutting from the ground. Windows were shattered, their glassy eyes empty and haunting. Stay close, Lisa warned, jittery nerves crackling throughout her veins. The light flickered as if signaling danger just beneath its surface, dark shadows teasing at their peripheral vision. In the distance, a figure appeared. Luminous yet spectral, an old man shuffled slowly toward them, a shadow of white beard and tattered clothing trailing behind him. His frail hands hung at his sides, fingers twitching sporadically as if beckoning them nearer. Help, come closer, he croaked, his voice brittle like dry twigs breaking underfoot. Lisa hesitated. Tommy, don't stay back, she murmured in a hard voice, her instincts screaming that something was terribly wrong, but Tommy stepped forward, eyes wide with curiosity. Maybe he can help us, Mom. No. Lisa snapped, gripping his arm. We need to keep moving. The old man's eyes flashed with an unsettling brightness. You're trapped now, you know they will come for you. He gestured behind him, and in that moment, the fog seeped back, creeping toward them like an unwanted tide. We're not trapped. Tommy shouted defiantly, excitement mingling with fear. We got away. With a sudden rush, fog poured into the street like spilled ink, engulfing the old man in an instant. A cacophony of whispers returned, seeping through the fabric of their minds, scratching at their sanity. Join us, stay with us, it hissed, spiraling tight around their heads. Run! Lisa yelled, yanking Tommy away just as the swirling dark threatened to swallow them whole once again. They sprinted, heartbeats pounding in tandem like war drums, the shadows bounding after them, burning with unholy hunger. The chill clung to their skin, biting whenever they dared to glance back. "Where do we go?" Tommy cried, chest heaving from the effort, eyes glazed with sheer terror. "Anywhere but here." Her own voice felt thin, lost amid the thunderous noise of despair. Just then, Lisa caught sight of a door tucked between two looming buildings, half hidden by the fog. Cracked and splintered, it looked ancient, but it promised a chance of safety. "This way!" she shouted, pulling Tommy with her as they barreled toward the door, the fog swirling angrily behind them, hot on their heels. When they reached the door, Lisa fumbled with the handle. It turned only slightly, stuck, time slipping away as the shadows crept closer. She slammed her shoulder into the door. It swung open with a groan, a gust of stale air rushing out. They dashed inside, slamming the door shut behind them just as the darkness seethed onward, a ravenous beast denied. Breathless, they stood in an old, dimly lit room, dust motes dancing in flickering light. Lisa could feel a sense of dread wrapping around her like a noose. Shelves lined the walls, piled high with forgotten relics and strange trinkets. Shadows stretched across the walls, twisting into monstrous shapes. "Where are we now?" Tommy whispered, tremors gripping him as he pressed against her side. "I don't know," Lisa said softly. "But we need to find a way out before they realize we're here." Anguished voices drummed at the walls, sadness and rage seeping through the air, clawing at her sanity. She turned toward the back of the room, searching for an exit, but a sudden chill zipped up her spine. The lights flickered more violently, plunging them into near darkness, and she let out a yelp as a shadow slid across the floor. "Mom, what is happening?" Tommy's voice quivered, breath hitching in his throat. "Stay close," she ordered, eyes darting to the shifting darkness. The shadows began to coalesce, forming shapes, each more terrifying than the last, growing clearer, more solid. A grim realization rushed over her. These were faces of the lost, the very ones she had seen in the fog. They were coming for her. The dread twisted into panic as the walls themselves seemed to pulse with life, breathing in sync with the throbbing darkness, the whispers crescendoing into a chaotic symphony of despair, and then, from within the dark mass, one figure stepped forward. It wore a smile that stretched far too wide, shadows curling around it like a shroud. "Welcome," it hissed, voice silky yet awful. "You found us at last." The ground beneath Lisa's feet trembled, and she could feel the shadows closing in, choking the air from her lungs. As the dark figure loomed closer, Lisa realized with piercing clarity this was only the beginning. What lies ahead in this nightmarish maze? Could they still escape the clutches of the horrors that hunted them? As shadows twisted and coiled like snakes, Lisa clung to Tommy, her fear deepening, freezing her in place. The figure's too wide grin split its face, revealing teeth that seemed more like knives than bone. She could feel their jagged edges slicing through the silence, sending chills racing down her spine. "Mom!" Tommy screamed, terror cracking his voice. "Run!" Lisa shouted, snapping out of her stupor as instinct kicked in. They bolted sideways, trying to evade the advancing darkness, the figure's laughter echoing in their ears, a cruel melody that promised despair. They stumbled deeper into the room, weaving in and out of dusty shelves that towered like ancient sentinels, each object within an echo of forgotten memories. A glass jar teetered precariously on the edge of a shelf, and as they rushed past, it shattered, sending shards skittering across the floor. "Look!" Tommy gasped, pointing to a window at the far end, framed by a thick, woven curtain that seemed to stretch and whisper as if beckoning them closer. Lisa squinted through the murky glass, expecting to see an exit, but found only a swirling fog outside, a hypnotic vortex beckoning them with an enticing promise of safety. "We can go out that way," Tommy insisted, but Lisa shook her head, heart racing. "No, it's not safe. Remember the fog?" Their backs met the wall as the dark figure edged closer, the rest of the shadows now pressing in behind it like an army, hungry and expectant. Whispers caressed her ears, words that slithered into her mind like poison. "Stay with us." Suddenly, the lights flickered and died. An avalanche of darkness overwhelmed them, turning their world into pure black. Lisa's heart pounded in her chest, drowning out everything else. "Tommy." She reached out, but her hand met nothing but air. "Where are you?" "I can't see." His voice cut through the silence, panic rising like bile in her throat. "Mom. I'm scared. Just hold on to my voice." She called out, desperation fueling her words. The whispers crescendoed again, drowning him out, clawing at her sanity. She took a step forward cautiously, every breath feeling like a heavy weight, each second stretching into eternity. Then, without warning, a hand grabbed her cold as ice. "Let me help you." The voice was low and gravelly, unmistakable in the thick air. "Tommy!" she shouted, spinning to find him. Her heart sank as she felt a different grip tighten around her wrist, something evil, something malicious. "Mom!" He was close, but the dark figure loomed behind him, and Lisa could see the monstrous smile reflected in the glassy eyes of the shadow. The air crackled with stagnant energy, sealing them in a bubble of despair. She yanked her arm free, pushing Tommy behind her. "Get away from him." Fear shot through her like lightning. The shadow recoiled, momentarily thwarted, but its expression only widened, a dance of malice played out on its face. "We all want to stay together," it hissed, shifting closer, the mist swirling ominously around the edges, coiling like a predator ready to strike. "No, I want to let you take him." Lisa screamed, lunging at the figure, but it slipped aside, mist and shadow flowing like water. "Stay with us." The cacophony of voices echoed back, weaving a net of darkness that encircled them. Tommy grabbed her hand, squeezing tightly. "Mom, what do we do?" She looked into his wide, fearful eyes, searching for an answer that just wasn't there. Then her gaze fell on a glimmering object nestled amongst the dust, a silver bell, small but intricately designed. It sat like a beacon, almost alive in the thick darkness. "Tommy!" "The bell!" she shouted, lunging for it without thinking. Just as her fingers brushed the cool metal, a surge of energy pulsed through her, a brilliant warmth in the freezing dark. The shadows shrieked, recoiling as if burned, the darkness retreating just enough for the dim light to cut through once again. "Use it," Lisa urged, and with a trembling hand, Tommy grasped it, his eyes wide with both fear and determination. That a profound silence fell, then a ringing sound pierced the thick air, echoing far and wide. Beyond the walls of the room. The figure howled, twisting in agony, retreating further into the darkness as the shadows writhed in chaos. But in that moment of hope, they found themselves surrounded by swirling forms again, the faces of the lost, agonized yet pleading. "Ding ding, it's time for your choice," came the chilling voice, sadistic and mocking. Lisa felt the ground shake beneath her. They were running out of time, and she realized with sudden clarity it was only a temporary reprieve. They needed to find a way out before the shadows reformed and attacked once more. As the ringing subsided, she turned to Tommy, determination overriding her fear. "We need to find that way out. Now." But just as they reached the door, it swung open, the swirl of fog spilling back into the room with a vengeance. "Choose," the voices echoed, "or you'll become part of us." Heart racing, Lisa grabbed Tommy's hand, knowing they had to act fast. What lay outside could mean freedom or damnation. But as they stepped toward the threshold, the looming shadows didn't just retreat, they melded into dangerous forms filled with dread, hungry for the light of hope. Lisa clutched so tightly. In that instant, a horrifying thought blossomed in her mind. What if escape was not an option? Before they could react, dark tendrils lashed out, splitting the air. "Next time, the light might not save you." The screams echoed as they were pulled back into the depths, and Lisa realized the nightmare was far from over. Where would they find salvation now? The shadows recoiled momentarily from the piercing light of the silver bell as Lisa gripped Tommy's hand tighter, determination fueling her resolve. But their temporary advantage dissolved as swiftly as it appeared, the dark figures lurking dangerously close, their whispering menace still alive in the corners of the room. Mom, what happens now? Tommy's voice was small, fear flickering in his big eyes. We need to find a way out fast. Lisa's heart raced, fear intertwining with fierce love, as she pulled him toward the door once more, but as they neared the threshold, the swirling mass of shadows surged forward, flooding the room like a vengeful tide. You cannot escape. They shouted, voices rising in an eerie symphony of dread. The air grew thick, its suffocating presence pressing against them. Tommy, keep the bell ready. Lisa urged, her voice trembling yet resolute as the darkness pressed closer, clawing at them like a feral beast. But then, terror struck her heart like a cold blade. The window, the last flickering piece of hope, broke in silence, a mirror of their fate trapped in terror. Please. Is there another way? She pleaded into the dark void, trying to center herself amid the chaos that enveloped around them. Then, something shifted in the air, a palpable change. The shadows hesitated, their ghastly forms vibrating. Emerging from the depths, a different voice echoed through the chaos, smooth yet chilling. You kids think you can play the game? Come now, you've barely even begun. A figure broke through, a warped version of the familiar ghostly faces that had haunted her dreams, the eerie woman from before. The twisted smile splayed across her face, the darkness swirling around her like a waiting specter. Embrace the shadows. They offer freedom. You can join us. No. Lisa shouted, a fierce protectiveness igniting within her. You're lying. We will never join you. The fog thickened, tendrils creeping toward them, wrapping around her. They tugged at her, whispering sweet lies that clawed at her sanity. Let go, it begged. It's easier than running. No, we're going to fight. Lisa shouted, summoning everything within herself. Tommy, on the count of 3, we're pushing through. Tommy nodded, eyes wide yet resolute. He raised the bell higher as they braced themselves, ready to sprint through the door. 1, 2, 3. In that moment, they bolted toward the door, the shadows lunging behind them. Lisa shoved the door open, their escape extending before them like the dawn breaking through a storm. But just as they took a step into the light, the shadows recoiled violently, howling in fury. The world outside was somehow brighter yet disorienting. A soft white light enveloped them, but the air felt heavy, saturated with lingering whispers. The rich scent of earth filled her nostrils as they stumbled onto a dirt path winding through a dark, dense forest. It felt alive, the trees swaying in an unseen wind, murmuring secrets all their own. Mom, what's happening? Tommy's voice shook, his small body tense beside her. I don't know, Lisa admitted, scanning their surroundings. But we have to keep moving. We can't stop now. As they trudged along the path, every rustle made her heart race. Each shadow that flitted between the trees made her breath hitch. Fear clawed at the back of her mind as the whispers grew louder, circling them like vultures. Tommy, what do you see? Lisa asked desperately, trying to ignite any spark of hope. It looks like a place, a cabin. He exclaimed, pointing to a glimmering structure in the distance, almost blending into the surroundings. Let us go. Lisa urged, pulling him along, their feet pounding against the earthly path. The shadows began advancing again, creeping at the edges of their vision, drawing nearer as if determined not to let them go. The cabin loomed closer, its front door cracked open. Every instinct screamed for them to rush inside. We can use the bell, Tommy said, clutching it tightly, his courage filling Lisa with strength. The door swung open before they reached it, revealing an elderly man standing inside. He looked both welcoming and weary, an amalgamation of rough lines on his face, age and wisdom etched deeply into his features. Welcome, weary souls, he said softly, stepping aside to let them in. You've come far, but your journey isn't over yet. The shadows will follow. What do we do? Lisa panted, urgency blazing in her heart. With a gentle nod, the man gestured to a dirt road lined with ancient stones glowing softly, illuminated candles flickering ahead. You must confront the Whisperer if you ever hope to find peace, he explained. This is a passage of choice. If you stand united, the shadows will falter. Together, Lisa whispered, clutching Tommy's hand. We can do this. Stepping outside once more, the shadows roiled beneath the trees, their shapes blending and swirling. The laughter rang hauntingly, a taunting echo of the past that clawed at her mind. Holding the bell aloft, Lisa and Tommy took a collective breath. We choose light over dark. They shouted together, a battle cry born of love and courage. The bell rang out with a vibrant chime that cut through the tumult, striking a ringing note of defiance in the air. The shadows recoiled, howling in anguish, their monstrous forms twisting as if caught by an unseen force. No. You can't take him. The ghastly whispers erupted once more. As the darkness surged, Lisa tightened her grip around Tommy's hand, hope pulsing through their bond. We won't let them take you, Tommy. She declared fiercely, stepping forward with unwavering determination. The silver bell chimed again, brighter this time, illuminating the clearing around them and pushing back the shadows with each ringing note. And as the layers of darkness peeled away, a break in the clouds revealed the radiant moon, shining luminously, a beacon guiding them home. In that moment of unity, something powerful began to shift. The shadows wailed, their cries sinking into the earth's embrace as the bell rang again, ringing out against the fear that bound them. The darkness that had once felt impossible began to dissolve, dispersing like mist under the morning sun. Together, they shouted, echoing their desire, bolstered by love and a pure choice. And just like that, against all odds, the shadows vaporized into nothingness, fading as whispers of despair became sweet nothings lost to the wind of courage. As silence enveloped them, Lisa and Tommy stood hand in hand, freedom at their feet. The cabin remained behind them, a sanctuary now, safe and strong. Chasing shadows would no longer define them. What do we do now, Mom? Tommy asked softly, his beliefs restored. With a heart swelling with pure possibility and light, Lisa leaned down, kissing his forehead. Now we go create a life filled with joy. No more shadows. Hand in hand, they set forth, leaving the haunted town of Haverhill behind, stepping courageously into a new dawn filled with hope as the echoes of their choices shimmered beneath a bright, clear sky. If you enjoyed this thrilling conclusion, you need to subscribe now. You don't want to miss the next exclusive stories coming your way. Trust me, smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us keep bringing you the content you love. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about the ending. Your feedback means the world, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. Let us spread the word and keep this community growing.